Hello friends, welcome back to AngularJS tutorial series part 20. My name is Nisha Singla and in this video we will discuss controller as syntax in AngularJS. In my previous video we have learned about nested controllers in AngularJS. So if you didn't cover my previous video, you can click on the link below. So if you remember in my previous video, I have discussed that nested controllers will be created on your DOM. So if you have defined your controller inside another controller, so automatically a nested scope will be created. In AngularJS, nested controllers can give you a lot of issues. So to get rid from that problem, we have another syntax that you can use that is called controller as syntax. So now let's understand controller as syntax with a practical example. So in my editor, I will use this part 20 folder for this demo where I have index.html file and one module file app.js. And in this app.js file, I have already created my module with the help of angular.module method. And I have referred this module in my index.html with the help of ng-app directive. And I have created two controllers. One is parent controller and second is child controller. So now let's create one property on the parent scope and I'm giving it a name username, giving it a value of John. As of now, I don't have any property in child controller. So move to your index.html and I will refer that parent controller with the help of directive parent controller. So now in this controller, you can use your username like this. So if you will run, it will display the value of John on the parent scope. So now if you want to edit the username, you can also edit with the help of ng model property. So I will create one text box so that user can also edit this one. So I will use this username property here. Now you can also edit the value of username. So if you will check here, if you make any change here, you will notice it will also reflect here. So in my previous video, we have discussed that you can also create nested scope. So in my parent controller, I will also use child controller. So let's create one more div that will refer to my child controller. So as I told you, if you will access the username here, first it will look inside this controller. As you know that in this controller, I don't have any username. So if you will print the value of username inside your child controller, it will also display the value of John. So to make it differentiate, you can put a heading here that this is my child controller. And inside this, I'm talking about my parent controller. So now if you notice, if you make any changes here, it will also reflect in the parent scope and in the child scope. Now suppose the same editing functionality you also want to give to child controller. You also want that you can also able to change the value of username from the child scope as well. So you can also put this input type inside your child controller. So now if you will run this one, you will get John value everywhere in the parent controller as well as inside your child controller. So if you make any changes from there, you will notice it will reflect everywhere. But now there is one problem that you will notice. So refresh the browser. Now suppose directly I try to change it from the child scope. So this time I'm not changing the value from the parent scope. I'm trying to change the value directly from the child controller. So if now you will notice if you make a change directly in the child controller, you will get some unexpected output. You will see the value is only changing inside your child controller. It is not changing in the parent controller. And now if you try to change the value from parent controller as well, you will notice they are not connected now. So if I put it Peter here, you will notice it is not reflecting in the child controller. So now you will see this unexpected output in nested controller. What is happening behind the scene when you directly change the value from the child controller, at that time it don't know about the property username. So as I told you, if you don't have any property inside the child controller and you bind that property on ng model, so automatically a property will be bind on the user on this scope for you. So what is happening? It is creating one username property on the child controller. So now there is no link between the username of child controller and parent controller. They both have their own username. So that is the issue because we were using the username from the parent scope inside the child controller. So this problem you will face in case of nested controllers. So in my previous video, I discussed that you have parent property to point out the parent. So you can also refer this property with the help of parent. But I also discussed that parent property is not an efficient way. If you are working on more than 2 or 3 level of nested, then it would be very difficult to point out the topmost parent with the help of parent property every time. So that's why we have controller as syntax. In controller as syntax, we are going to create an object of each controller so that you can refer your property with the help of an object here. So let's discuss how you can create controller as syntax and how you can get rid from this problem. So move to your app.js. The first rule of controller as syntax is that you never create the property on scope. You will create the property on object, and in JavaScript to represent object we use this keyword. So in place of creating the property on scope object, you need to bind the property on this object. So once you bind the property on this object, move to the index.html. Each controller now should have one object. So you can create an object with keyword as and create any name. So I said this is my parent. So my object name will be parent. And same way to point out the child controller. As of now, the child controller don't have any property. But in future, if you create any this property on child controller, you can refer it with the help of child. So now in your program to refer the parent property, you have to use parent object before that property name. So here you can say this property belongs to parent dot username. Same for this one. And here as well to refer the data inside your child controller from parent scope, you have to use parent dot username and same for this one parent. So now if you will run this program, initially if you change the data from parent scope, it was working fine. It will reflect everywhere. But the problem was if you make a change from here, will it reflect here or not? So now if I say Sam, you will notice it is also reflecting in the parent scope because this time we are referring our property directly on the object. So this is called controller as syntax where you bind your controller property on this object rather than on scope object. And to refer your property inside your index.html, you use an object. Now this is an efficient way of creating properties when you are working on nested scope. I hope you like this video. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe my channel. See you in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.